Welcome to Tales from South Florida, the podcast about the people, places, events, and history that made and make our little corner of the Sunshine State such a wonderful place to be. I'm your host, Bill Monty. Now, by the time that this episode airs, and we will be very close to, if not right on, the anniversary sounds like a weird way to say this, right? But it will be 3 years since Jimmy Buffett passed away back in 2023. I've done an episode in the past called Jimmy Buffett Sunset in Margaritaville. And if you'd like to go back and listen to it, the unique thing about that episode was that I recorded it really 1 hour with no other prep, just 1 hour after I heard the news that Jimmy Buffett had passed away. It was a Saturday morning. And I wanted to capture my emotions and my feelings right at that moment because Jimmy Buffett's music and the way that he lived his life, especially when we go back to the 1970s and the 1980s, really helped shape the person that I was and the person that I was becoming. I don't have a lot of musical heroes, but Jimmy Buffett was absolutely one of them. So that episode is there. I'll put a link to it here in the show notes, or just go to Talesfromsouthflorida.com and just click the Listen Now button and search for Jimmy Buffett Sunset in Margaritaville. But this episode, I really want to be more of a celebration of the life of Jimmy Buffett, all right? So we're going to talk about, if you're not aware of a lot of things about Jimmy Buffett, I'm going to give you kind of, hopefully, a brief history. But where I really want to get to are the 10 songs that I think if you came to me and said, I've never listened to Jimmy Buffett, these were the 10 songs that I would point you towards to understand what the man's music was about. Now, I understand something. He released over 50 albums, between the studio albums, the live albums, the compilations. So being able to pick 10 songs out of all of those, just the first 5 albums alone, you could pick all the favorite songs from right there and not go anywhere past it, but then you would miss so many great ones. So being able to pick 10, very tough chore. I've been going over this over and over, crossing out songs, adding songs. I can tell you there are songs that I feel should be here in the top 10, but when it gets down to it, you have to make the cut somewhere. So these are the 10 that I would introduce. If you want to hear more of Jimmy Buffett's music, I invite you to go again to Talesfromsouthflorida.com, go to our Spotify playlist. It is composed purely of songs by Jimmy Buffett and many other artists, and they are all particularly about the subjects that I talk about on every episode of Tales from South Florida, or just about South Florida in general. So a little back history. Jimmy Buffett was born Christmas Day in 1946 in Pascagoula, Mississippi. He grew up in Mobile, Alabama. His Gulf Coast upbringing, his father's work around shipyards, and his grandfather's life as a steamship captain, all of this heavily influenced his lifelong fascination with boats and the sea and absolutely coastal characters. He initially attended Auburn University, then moved over to Pearl River Junior College. And while there, that's when he began performing on the streets of New Orleans, formed his first band there, the Upstairs Alliance. After graduating college, he moved to Nashville. He worked as a reporter for Billboard magazine, believe it or not, while he was pursuing a country folk music career. He released his first album, Down to Earth, in 1970. It was not a hit. I've heard it. I have it because if you're a Jimmy Buffett fan, you got to have that album. It wasn't very good. He recorded another album. Again, something else that didn't work out. He got married, he got divorced, and by 1971, Jimmy Buffett was looking for a new direction in life. The turning point for him and for people like me came in 1971 when Jimmy Buffett traveled to Florida and met up with fellow musician Jerry Jeff Walker. He spent some time with Jerry Jeff down at Coconut Grove, and then one day they decided to take a trip down to Key West. Well, as you might know, he fell in love with the island. He settled there, worked on fishing boats by day, playing bars and streets at night. Key West gave Jimmy Buffett the characters and the stories and the tropical atmosphere that became the foundation of his distinctive musical identity. You see, Jimmy's music transformed Key West from a place that back in those days was primarily just known to artists, fishermen, eccentrics, free spirits. I mean, when you think about the names associated with Key West besides Jimmy Buffett, You've got Ernest Hemingway, you've got Tennessee Williams, you've got President Harry Truman. I'm probably missing a few there, but certainly a lot of people who loved being in Key West, going to Key West. But it was Jimmy Buffett who basically turned the island into a destination for generations of fans. I was recently there just about 4 or 5 weeks ago. I can tell you his influence is still very strong. In 1977, the song Margaritaville was released. It was on the album Changes in Latitudes and Changes in Attitudes. It reached number 8 on the Billboard Hot 100, its highest ever pop chart position, by the way. Reached number 13 on the country charts and number 1 on adult contemporary charts. The song became virtually synonymous with Key West, and it did grow into a worldwide brand encompassing restaurants, merchandise, resorts, and entertainment. Again, can you go anywhere without finding a Margaritaville restaurant? Here in Florida, you can take Margaritaville at Sea cruises out of most ports in Florida. You've got the Margaritaville resorts and living communities. I don't believe that back in the 1970s, he ever thought that anything like that would ever happen. He once joked that he started the Margaritaville restaurant in Key West because he wanted to be sure he had a place to play when it all fell apart. His musical style became known as tropical rock. It blended country, folk, rock, Caribbean music, and storytelling. His band, the Coral Reefer Band, became synonymous to all of us with just the fun characters that Jimmy hung out with, and we enjoyed their music. And of course, the enormous following of his fans, known as Parrot Heads, turned his concerts into a cultural phenomenon. It should be noted that Jimmy was also an environmental advocate. In 1981, he co-founded the Save the Manatee Club with Florida Governor Bob Graham. He was recognized and inducted into the Florida Artist Hall of Fame in 2000, with the state of Florida recognizing his extraordinary contribution to Florida's cultural identity. And back in 2024, the Florida legislature, in a rare display of everyone crossing political lines, unanimously approved the designation of all of State Road A1A from Key West to the Georgia state line as the Jimmy Buffett Memorial Highway. Coinciding with the unveiling of the A1A Memorial Highway signs, Key West established August 30th as Jimmy Buffett Day. But let's talk now about Jimmy Buffett's music. And let's start finding out what Bill Monty's top 10 Jimmy Buffett songs are. Let's look at song number 10. For me, song number 10 was I Heard I Was in Town. This was a song that was on the album Somewhere Over China. It was released back in 1981, and it's a reflective, slower-paced acoustic and vocal track that captured island nostalgia and just the passage of time in places like Key West. When my friend Paul and I used to go down to Key West, we always imagined, wouldn't it be great if we walked into a bar, we were walking down the street, and we saw Jimmy Buffett? Wouldn't that have been fantastic? This song kind of flipped that whole idea on its head and said, I wonder what Jimmy Buffett thinks about when it comes to finding out that he's in town. Great song. I love it. Number 9 for me is a song called Livingston Saturday Night. This is one of the up-tempo songs. It's kind of a country up-tempo song. Not a lot on my list of those type of songs. A lot of my favorites were more of his ballads or his softer tunes. But absolutely one of my favorites. This will get your toes a tapping, and it's a great just driving down the road song, Livingston Saturday Night. The great thing about this song was not only was it featured on the album Son of a Sailor, another great album, which was released in 1978, the song was also featured on the soundtrack of a movie called Rancho Deluxe. Not a big hit movie, but Jimmy did the soundtrack for that movie himself. I think it was the only time he ever did. No, he did Hoot also later on. Yes, it was included in Rancho Deluxe. Later on, it was also featured, I can't remember if the full song was featured in it, a movie called FM. And he also performed that song in that film. The best version of that song, though, honestly, is in Son of a Sailor. It's a great, great rockin' Jimmy Buffett song. You need to give it a listen. It might even deserve to be higher on the list than number 9, but frankly, I got all these other songs right in front of it. All right, let's talk about number 8. This is another of the rockin' songs that Jimmy did that I absolutely love. And one day, maybe I'll do an episode about the entire album, Changes in Latitude, because I've never really heard people talk about the idea that this was a concept album, but when I listened to it, I did recently, I listened to the whole thing again, it actually tells a story, but I don't have time to go into that in this episode here. Number 9 is the song Landfall. What would I do if I made no landfall? Another rockin' song. Just got some great music. One of the things that all these early songs have that we didn't have in some of the much later songs was the amazing playing on harmonica by Fingers Taylor. He was part of the Coral Reefer Band. I think he was one of the first members of the Coral Reefer Band. And unfortunately, I believe he and Jimmy had a falling out later on and many years later. But man, both of these songs here feature some great harmonica playing by Fingers Taylor. That's some of my favorite part of this. Landfall, again, it's going to get your toes tapping, going to put the pedal to the metal. It's just a great song, especially, you know what? If you're driving that drive from Miami to Key West, this song is got to be on your playlist. All right, number 7 on my list for top 10 Jimmy Buffett songs for me, Bill Monty, is Nautical Wheelers. This was released on the 1974 album A1A. It's a song, I mentioned before that in his early years in Key West, he would mention the bars and the people that he was involved with. Well, this particular song really does illustrate a vivid, kind of nostalgic picture of that time that he was in Key West. It's all about a late night island party, the social group he was at. They were called the Nautical Wheelers. It's about the heavy drinking and partying, about the misfits and spontaneous, slightly disastrous midnight boat outing. It contains the line in it, which was also the title of one of his albums, Living and Dying in Three-Quarter Time. It's odd that this song would not have been on the album called Living and Dying in Three-Quarter Time, but it wasn't. I don't know the reason why. It is one of these songs that, again, as you're listening to it, you can just picture Key West. You can hear the sights, the sounds, the smells of the island. Just what it must have been like to be young Jimmy Buffett exploring his life and exploring this newfound freedom. Nautical Wheelers. Every time I hear that, it really takes me back to another time in my life. For number 6, this one's the nostalgic one for Jimmy Buffett. It's called The Captain and the Kid. This song is a personal glimpse into Jimmy Buffett's history and his life and the way that his past helped shape him and sharing that with the world. The song was originally written back in 1970. It was on the debut album that I talked about before when he was in Nashville. The record producer wanted him to change it, said it was too depressing of a song. Maybe the old man doesn't die in the end. Maybe you just kind of have a beer with him. Jimmy, of course, didn't like that change to it. It didn't happen. Jimmy explained that he wrote this song right after his grandfather died. And this is just his memories about him. He wrote the song after he went to the funeral. When someone asked him how long it took him to write the song, he said that he thought he wrote it in a day, because that's how he wrote back then. You were just by yourself. You kept going until you had the song. It's touching. It's that peek into the life of Jimmy Buffett, the captain and the kid. Every time I hear it, it just takes me back. And now we're coming up to what are the top 5 songs for me for Jimmy Buffett. We're going to get right into it right after you hear this message from one of my friends.
If you're a dad, if you know a dad, then we have a space for you. It's called Dad Space. You can find us at dadspace.ca. That's all things dad. This is a podcast designed to help you, as a dad, give you the tools, the connections, and the community to be a better dad. So, if you're a new dad, congratulations. And if you've been a dad like me for a long time, there's room for you at Dad Space. Come join us on Dad Space, the podcast, over at dadspace.ca. Thanks for listening.
Number 5 here is going to be Margaritaville. I'm going to be honest with you. This actually is not one of my favorite songs, but it was so important in getting Jimmy Buffett out in front of the world that I don't know how I could not include it here. And honestly, the actual studio version, I like that a lot, okay? never really cared much for what became the party part of it at the live concerts. Yes, I was singing along. Yes, I was singing salt, 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 just like everyone else. But when it comes down to it, if you really want to hear what this song was about, go back to Changes in Latitude. Listen to his version of it there. I think it's just so much better than some of the live versions. Parrot Heads, don't get all over me here. I'm with you. Great song. And certainly how important it was for Jimmy Buffett has to be included in anybody's top 10 list. The next song for me is off of his last album, which I just heard the news, by the way, they're going to be releasing another album. So Mac McAnally, members of the Coral Reefer Band, found some recordings that Jimmy made that were never released. I hope these are not things that he didn't want to release because he didn't think they were very good. But they've reworked them. They've taken the vocals. I can't wait to hear it. I just want one more time to listen to Jimmy Buffett. But his final album is called Equal Strain on All Parts. And I got to say something. I think this was one of Jimmy's best albums. I put it up there with some of the stuff from the 70s, that first 5 album list. There's not a clunker on this album. For the most part, I really enjoyed it. However, one song is called Bubbles Up. And I think if there's any part of Jimmy Buffett that knew this would be the last time he got to speak to his fans, and if he thought, well, I want to just send one last thought to them for when times get hard, what I want them to remember about me, it's going to be this song called Bubbles Up. I still, when I hear this song, get teary-eyed listening to it. I want to think that this was Jimmy's last message to us, that it was his way to let us know that no matter how bad your life is going, just remember, look for the bubbles up, because they'll point you towards home, no matter how deep or how far you roam. Number 3 has got to be the number 1 song that introduced me to Jimmy Buffett. Again, I talked about this on that episode I did, Sunset in Margaritaville. I remember as a kid working at Tom McCann's shoe store in the Hollywood Fashion Center. My boss would have the radio playing, I'm sure it was some adult contemporary station, and the song Come Monday would come on a lot. And he would sit there and sing it. I learned it. I kind of thought this is going to be a one-hit wonder kind of song. But I knew there was something different about this guy. And while I didn't really get to know much of Jimmy Buffett's music until my friend Paul reintroduced me to him in 1977 with Changes in Latitude album, Come Monday was that first time. I still think it's a great song, isn't it? If you listen to it, it's a great melody. Believe it or not, as someone who used to really sing and actually be a professional singer, not so much anymore, I can tell you got to have some breath control to sing this song. It's a more complicated song than you realize when you're listening to it. Number 2 on the hit parade. This is tough because I could have changed number 2 and number 1 back a million times. But number 2 has got to be Trying to Reason with Hurricane Season from the album A1A. Trying to Reason with Hurricane Season is pure Jimmy Buffett. It is pure Florida Keys. It is pure Florida. Everything about this song is, I think, 100% perfect. There's not anything wrong with it at any point. Absolutely love the song. This is a song that I would say if you want to find the essence of Jimmy Buffett and why people love his music, then Trying to Reason with Hurricane Season is the song you have to listen to. My number 1 song, okay, I'm cheating here, folks. I've got 1A and 1B. They're interchangeable, and I cannot come up with a way to say that one is more important or better than the other. So I'm going to start with 1B, and I don't know how else to say this without sounding like, I think it's a lesser song, because I do not think it's a lesser song. But again, this would be one of these songs, just like Trying to Reason with Hurricane Season, that I think is the essence of Jimmy Buffett, and it's called A Pirate Looks at 40. This song was actually inspired by a real-life drug smuggler that Jimmy met back in Key West. It tells the story of this washed-up smuggler who regrets not being born back in the age of piracy and not really happy with his life choices. A play on this became the title of Jimmy's memoir, A Pirate Looks at 50. It's a perfect song. Again, this is just a perfect song. A pirate looks at 40. My occupational hazard is my occupation's just not around. God, how many times have I felt that in my life? I love that song. I think most Jimmy Buffett fans do. And there are many who would say this should be 1A, Bill, and not 1B. But I'm going to tell you what number 1A is for me and why it's not A Pirate Looks at 40. And that's a song called Tin Cup Chalice. This song is the song that I play and put on when I need a little Jimmy Buffett and I need a little bit of reassurance that life's okay. This is the song that I've put into my will to be played at my funeral, at my wake. I don't plan to have a funeral, but at my wake or whatever. It's the last song I want them to play as the world says goodbye to me. And I'd say, I guess, goodbye to the world, although I guess that would have happened a few days before. But Tin Cup Chalice there's the line, it's kind of the verse, but it changes. I want to be there. I want to go back down and either lie beside the sea there, which is the first time he sings it, or get high by the sea there, or I want to go back down and die beside the sea there. Yeah, exactly. When it comes to memories and sometimes being nostalgic for the younger days, yeah, those are the things that I think about. I want to be young again, to go back down and get high by the sea there. But don't do that anymore. Or I just want to go back down and lie beside the sea there. And if it came down to it, and if you could pick the time and place and choosing of where you want to shuffle off this mortal coil, yeah, I'd like to go back down and die beside the sea there. So that's it, my friends. That's my Jimmy Buffett top 10. And you know what? If I wrote this list tomorrow, I'll bet you some of those songs would shift in position, and I'd probably drop some and add, because I didn't even talk about ones that I absolutely love and cherish, things like Jimmy Dreams or a 12-Volt Man. That's such a great song. I just, there's no way. Coconut Telegraph. It's my job. You know, and then there's all the collaborations. It's 5 O'Clock Summer with Alan Jackson, Knee Deep with the Zac Brown Band. All the duets on License to Chill that were just so fantastic. Love Me Like My Dog Does from Equal Strain on All Parts. You know, there's some great Jimmy Buffett songs. So do yourself a favor, my friends. If you're nostalgic for South Florida, the way it used to be, or maybe the way it is now, you just want to hear some great music, whether you're a Jimmy Buffett fan or whether you're someone who might become a Jimmy Buffett fan, I've given you these 10 songs to start with. But I hope you'll dive deep into his catalog because, man, the dude has some great albums. You know, the songs you don't know, or songs you know by heart was his compilation, his best of. And then during COVID, he did songs you don't know by heart, which oddly enough were all songs that I did know by heart. Anyway, my friends, thank you for taking the time. I know I've gone much longer than my normal 15 minutes for an episode of Tales from South Florida. But this is my Jimmy Buffett memorial episode. Thank you, Jimmy, for helping to shape me as a young man. Thank you for giving me the music that still brings a smile to my face and sometimes a tear to my eye. The world would have been a very different place if James William Buffett wasn't in it. I'm so glad he was. My friends, once again, if you enjoyed this episode or any of Tales from South Florida, please do me a favor and be sure to like, comment, share, and hit that subscribe or follow button. A special shout out to my friends in Australia. Good day, mates. Sorry, I know that was terrible. This week, I have found that the Tales from South Florida has been in the top 20 of most popular podcasts in Australia for the category of travel and places. So all my Australian friends, thank you so much. To my friends in also New Zealand and in Sweden, and of course all across the world, and especially North America and especially Florida. Your support means so much. Thank you so much. If you'd like to help support a little bit more, I encourage you to please use the Buy Me a Coffee link that's in the show notes, or go to talesfromsouthflorida.com and click on the Buy Me a Coffee link there. Until next time, my friends, I remind you to please be safe, be kind, and hey, bubbles up, folks.
walk down memory lane, 'cause the stories around here are just insane. Pirates World, the Sporto and Wolfies do, Palm Beach to Key West, that's where we grew. These are the tales from South Florida for you, with your host Bill Monty.
Hi, this is Bill Monty, and if you enjoy the podcast, sharing episodes, spreading the word, well, truly that means a lot, and it helps the show grow like you wouldn't believe. But if you'd like to support the podcast a little further, I ask you to please click the Buy Me a Coffee link that you can find in the show notes. Your support helps offset production and hosting costs so I can keep bringing you more stories, memories, and conversations in each episode. And besides, podcasting is a thirsty business, so I appreciate you filling my cup with some Joe. Hey, thanks for listening. Thank you for being part of the journey. And if you can, thank you for buying me a cup of coffee.